I got this bottle from my dad's friend, and I don't know whether it's a place or like an event or maybe an item, but that's his business, so buy it or go there, I don't know. Supporting your friends. Welcome.
Intro?
Today we'll be discussing season 5 episode 6, which is Rick and Morty's Thanksploitation Spectacular, which is the first dedicated Thanksgiving episode. And this video will be, as always, split into 3 categories: continuity, characters, and plot. And let's just get right into it. When it comes to continuity, since it's season 6, we can now 100% say that there is no overarching plot behind the episodes. Definitely nothing like in season 3 with the divorce. Well, there could have been some things which hinted at it that we don't know about yet, but I highly doubt it. I just don't believe that much thought goes into it. But I do think that character arcs are continuous. We've seen Portal Gun, I believe, for the first time this season, so I'll stop repeating that it might not be our Rick. I mean, it still might not be, because I feel that there was a pretty big jump in Rick's emotional intelligence between season 4 and season 5. So, it's still possible, but I just think that that's because I've spent so much time analyzing it that I feel that it was necessary to give him more time and room to grow, to make the transition more smooth. It's way more likely than not that it's our Rick, and they are just episodes, continuous episodes following season 4 finale. When it comes to how this episode contributes to character development, so the continuity of character development over the season, I think it's valuable, but the only person that really benefits is Rick. The other characters don't really go on much of a journey. And saying that, we'll move on to characters. Hold on, let me just... Speaking of characters, I think I'll start with Jerry, who doesn't really have much of a role. I think we can infer or assume that he's still kind of mad at Beth and Rick that they mocked him for his cringiness in the previous episode. It's consistent because he seems a little bit saucy, spicy, or just assertive. He gets quite a bit of quips in. Some of them don't really work out because he's just awkward. And that's essentially it for Jerry and his character arc. Beth is very assertive. She doesn't really have any touching moments with any family members because this episode is firmly not about her. She is, I think at this point, the most respected figure in the household. Even the president shows her respect when he visits. When it comes to Summer, she doesn't really play any role at all. She just has like one important for her thing to say, and essentially that's it. But I think the person who gets the least amount of emotional journey or whatever is Morty. He's purely there to accompany Rick. He's just not at all relevant. And I'm not saying it in a disparaging way. I don't really mind. Time and place for everything, and this is not time for Morty. I think he gets less to say. He goes on less of a journey than all the other characters, including Jerry, who doesn't go on one at all. So he's just there for Rick. And speaking of Rick, that's a Rick episode, to be honest. Rick goes on a character journey, and his characterization in this episode is very consistent with what we've learned about him this season. He's very family oriented in the sense that he cares about the family. There's not much about it, but we can see how he functions within the family. And Rick of previous seasons would have had some sort of spats or quarrels with family members. And in here, it goes really smoothly. He doesn't really ruffle anyone's feathers. So we can see that he tries or doesn't really care to antagonize his family, or maybe it's just that he does not derive any satisfaction from antagonizing his family anymore. Maybe he doesn't look down on them. There are many possible conclusions. So more respect, less disrespect, different source of satisfaction, because I mean, he must have derived some sort of pleasure from being that top person in his family. He no longer is that, and this season he seems satisfied with that. And this episode is not about his journey as a family man, it's a friendship journey more so, because this episode explores his relationship with fandom favorite, the president. And the relationship is pretty tense at the beginning. They have a dick measuring contest as stated by some background characters, and essentially their beef with each other is the only plot of the episode. The screen time is split between them both, but I don't think we can even say that there is a B plot line, because they both have the same objective in the episode. The background characters perceive this tension and even remark on the fact that they should probably act on their sexual tension. That's how it's perceived by the people in the background, the family and also the president's staff. They both independently think that there is a sexual tension to be resolved between Rick and the president. They call their respective friends call the other person their boyfriend, if you know what I mean. And it's not really disparaged or dismissed, but I wouldn't look too much into it. I think at this point it's just a joke, which I appreciate that there is no homo vibe, but then again it would be out of character for the show. There weren't really... No, there was one no homo joke in the episode with the planet within the planet in the car battery. There was like, something is pretty gay. So that, never mind. In this episode, the whole implication of potential relationship is just a joke, but I fully believe that in the future, depending on what the humor calls for, their relationship might be platonic or romantic. I'm not really thinking that there's going to be a representation or anything like that. It's just whatever whatever suits the show as the more funny option will turn out to be true, is my point. Anyhow, but it is at this point just a friendship, and it ends with reconciliation and some more emotional maturity, even more emotional maturity for Rick. I'll also mention the president's character arc within the episode, because he also goes on a journey from the dick measuring with the Rick and kind of looking to one-up him to reconciliation. But I think the president is more aware and more caring about their relationship. He was appreciative of the relationship that they had even in season 3 finale. When Rick broke up with him or just stopped caring about him, he was pretty bummed out, and I feel that he puts in a little bit more effort into their relationship, which is just like a tiny amount. The whole plot is the feud between them, but I think the president cares to uphold the relationship, kind of like Mr. Nimbus from episode 1 is Rick's nemesis but cares about this relationship. The president also is a nemesis, or maybe perceives himself to be one, and would like to keep this relationship as is. And that's it when it comes to the characters. Let's move on to the quality control of the episode. I'll start with summarizing the plot. We start the episode by learning that Rick routinely has been turning himself into a turkey each Thanksgiving in order to obtain president's pardon. By the way, this is a ridiculous tradition. Like, the turkey pardon for what? Like, pardon? You get pardoned for making a mistake, I mean, or doing a crime, and a turkey gets pardoned from being eaten. Seems kind of backwards, but never mind, y'all are Americans, so whatever. He wants to obtain the presidential pardon as a turkey, which carries over to when he turns himself back into a human. And as I mentioned before, the screen time is split somewhat evenly between the president and Rick. Maybe I wouldn't even say it's a B plot line. It's like an F plot line about a specific soldier who is going to have a role in the Turkey wars, in the Turkey feud, but it's not really too relevant. It only carries over to the post-credit scenes, but it's not relevant at all for me to discuss it right now. The first thing I want to discuss is pacing, because it's possibly the weakest point of this episode. This episode goes really, really fast. There's not really a time for a break, but there rarely is in Rick and Morty, but this is a very, very fast-paced episode, which doesn't really slow down. And the thing that exacerbates this feeling of being rushed, potentially, because I don't think the pacing is terrible, I just think it's the weakest point, which speaks to the quality of the episode, that the worst part of it is just questionable at most. It's not truly that bad. But the thing that exacerbates the feeling of being rushed are the info dumps, which occur several times within the episode. The info dumps are about, first of all, retconning the whole idea of turning himself into a turkey, and I'll put a pin in that, because when Rick is explaining the turkey backstory, I apologize for the fly in my room, I can't catch it or whatever. When Rick is explaining the turkey lore, he mentions that he's been doing it for as many years as he's lived with the family, and I explained, I think when I was discussing episode 3, relevant video will be up here, that the timeline is a bit wonky because there's been already 2 Christmases since Rick arrived, but it's been in text stated this season that Morty is still 14, and Rick seems aware of this fact, and I feel that it might have been a wink to the audience, because he says, Jerry, that I've been doing it for as many years as I've lived here, and be careful how you answer that question. Like, Jerry's supposed to be careful when he's answering how many years Rick has been here, because it's wonky and not really clear for the audience as well. I really don't like that Morty is still 14. He should be 16 at this point, but we have to keep him young if we've got like 10 seasons more to go. So never mind. Going back to the info dumps, that's the first info dump. Then there were info dumps about inserting a DNA tracking device in people. In general, several info dumps, but within these info dumps, there were again winks to the audience, like this will be relevant later, which I think just proves that the info dumps as a whole are kind of a joke. And just as sometimes Rick and Morty do this thing where they explore a whole sci-fi concept, like for example clones or miniature universes, here they comment on, well, maybe info dumps or retconning or stuff like that within this episode. I don't know how deep I can think this thing is, because dialogue with the audience is a normal thing within the show, but then again, it's a theme. So, and I said, the info dumps occur so often that they make the feeling of, and they are spoken very fast, so they make us feel even more rushed, but I feel that's fine. Just, this is a fine episode. Another thing that I want to mention is the fact that Rick's first solution to solving a problem of needing a presidential pardon is not talking with the president, but turning himself into a turkey, which is a direct, complete parallel to his problem solving in the Pickle Rick episode, where he also turns himself into something else and comes up with a way more contrived and complicated solution, like pointlessly complicated, just needlessly pointlessly complicated, just stupid solution. Anyhow, it seems smart to him, he just really overthinks it. But in the Pickle Rick, it was a matter of avoiding the problem, avoiding the conflict, in trying to regain control of the situation. But in here, I feel that the turkification was more so only had similar, not the same motives. Because while he turns himself into a turkey, because in his big brain, it seems like the most logical solution and just inserting himself as a turkey makes more sense, it was not done as a pure escapism, right? He kind of knows what he's doing. And as a pickle, he was very much in denial of what his actions are actually about, avoiding therapy. Here, they are kind of about avoiding the conversation, but he's being a little bit more proactive in a sense. It almost seems like he's only ready to have a confrontation as a turkey. As himself, he's not ready to take that step yet, but he's ready to interact with the president when he's a turkey. I'll also mention this parallel, which I think is very contrived, but I thought I'll say it, that in general, Rick having a spat with his maybe newest best friend in a bird-themed episode may be somewhat of a reference to Bird Person, but I think that's not true and it's very contrived, but I thought I'll say it just in case I can get like brownie points later if it becomes true. Anyhow, having said all of that, the Pickle Rick parallel, the pacing issues, it's a very fast-paced episode, and you can, if pacing is something that you really care about, it's not going to be your favorite episode, but I don't care about pacing in this episode. I think that the jokes about the info dumps and wings towards the audience were funny. And I think that genuinely the episode that I've enjoyed the most this season. I had a blast watching it. I liked the American lore, the jokes about America throughout the episode were funny. And the semi-political jokes as well. So yeah, I definitely like it. It's one of my top episodes of the season. I didn't laugh as hard as I did about the sperm episode, but it's better. It is much better. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave thumbs up, especially if you're watching already. I would really appreciate if you took the time to like on here, maybe subscribe if you like hanging out with me, and see you sometime soon. I'm sure I'll have one more video out this week and another Rick and Morty video out next Monday or Tuesday. We'll see. So yeah, see you all later. Bye bye. Oh, and check out my social media in the description box if you're so inclined. Yeah. Cheers and pa-pa.